Namaste. And in this video, I'll give you a step-by-step plan for postpartum recovery. And even if you don't want to take my course, after watching this video, you'll have a clear understanding of which direction you need to move in and which exercises you should avoid during the initial stage of recovery. So, what does it mean to start a proper recovery? First and foremost, it means excluding forbidden exercises. Jumping and running, high impact loads, they negatively affect our pelvic floor muscles and the entire body, which is still weakened after childbirth. We should also avoid classic abdominal exercises, twists, those crunches, We will do abdominal exercises, but completely different ones. Also, we really must not perform straight leg raises. Exercises such as scissors or the bicycle, they also definitely should not be done during the initial stage. Also, we shouldn't overstretch the abdominal muscles through deep back bends. We also exclude the vacuum and noli at the beginning of our recovery. Gradually you can return to them, but right after birth, and if you have any pelvic floor issues, diastasis, or a bulging tenting when doing abs, then initially we exclude vacuum and noli. Also, at the initial stage, we really shouldn't do straight planks on our hands or on our forearms. We also don't do side planks either. We'll move on to those gradually once our body gets stronger and more capable. And of course, you shouldn't work with heavy weights. And also don't do deep lunges. And as I said, these prohibitions apply to women who've just given birth, as well as those who have any of the listed problems. These are weak pelvic floor muscles, organ prolapse, diastasis, or a bulging ridge. When we do ab exercises, also hyperlordosis. We don't do any of these listed exercises. There should be therapeutic practices here, which accordingly I use in my courses. It's no secret to you, of course, that everything in our body is interconnected, and during pregnancy it undergoes profound transformations. These changes are adaptive in nature, and in most cases they are short-lived and completely disappear after childbirth. But we still need to help our bodies not forget about our daily habits, not slouching, lifting the baby correctly, not making the situation worse, because during pregnancy, due to the weight of the belly, we often develop hyperlordosis in the lower back, and it starts to hurt. If we continue to carry the baby incorrectly after pregnancy, slouching, then we'll be making the situation worse. This also applies to working with our feet, because during pregnancy our weight shifts from the middle of the foot to the toes. And here it even happens. Sometimes girls develop flat feet, but it's all very individual. It varies. Sometimes the pregnancy goes perfectly and recovery happens even without additional exercises. This is of course more of an exception to the rule, but still it happens too. I advise you not to ignore the recommendations that I've given you, because fixing problems later, that arise like diastasis, if you don't do everything right in time, don't engage the deep muscles, if you're standing up straight and not coming at it from the side as I recommend, then it will actually be much harder to fix all of those issues later on than it is to simply maintain good posture beforehand. Everything will be very light. There will be more focus on breathing and deep muscles, but regularity is key. I'll repeat this once more. For some reason, brushing our teeth. We don't forget to do it every day since childhood. Our parents taught us that it's necessary and it's for our health. For health, if we don't brush, then we'll either have to have all our teeth pulled or run to the dentist every time. The same applies to our entire body. If we were taught from childhood to exercise regularly every day for just 5 to 10 minutes, believe me, you would feel much better than without exercise routines. And I'm not saying you need some kind of super crazy sport. Everything can be light but beneficial for our organism, for our body. I hope I've managed to convince you that regular exercise is vital for your health and you won't be skipping. And now we'll take a closer look at what our practices will be focused on. The first thing we'll start with is activating the thoracoabdominal and pelvic diaphragms. During pregnancy, the diaphragm's respiratory movements are limited due to the increasing size and volume of the uterus. And we need to restore diaphragmatic breathing because the pelvic diaphragm moves in sync with the thoracic one. And if their function isn't coordinated, many problems can arise, such as organ prolapse, incontinence, diastasis, as well as umbilical and linear alba hernias, hemorrhoids, constipation, and lower back pain while performing exercises. All of this stems from how well they work together, right? We'll also be doing exercises aimed at improving our posture, correcting hyperlordosis, and you can start all the warm-up and breathing routines from the very first days after giving birth. It's that many people are mistaken in thinking you must wait 2 months after childbirth to begin your recovery. No, you should start recovery right away. You just need to know exactly how. Of course, I don't mean abdominal crunches or any jumping or squats. Everyday squats are fine, like when you're picking up your baby, but not as part of a workout. Everything here is very gentle and light, yet it targets our deep muscles and the diaphragm. The only thing I'd suggest is to avoid exercises for the pelvic floor muscles until the lochia stops, specifically Mula Bandha. I'll explain this in more detail later. These are also known as Kegel exercises. Don't recommend doing them during your period or until the lochia has finished. Also, if you have any doubts at all, be sure to consult with your doctor or gynecologist. And if you want, then wait 1.5 to 2 months until the first checkup, and then start the practices. The next thing we'll be working with is the pelvic floor muscles. Here we will have a comprehensive approach, various exercises coordinated with breathing, and also direct work with Mula Bandha in synergy with our breathing and with the practices. So what is Mula Bandha and how do you work with it? Mula Bandha is the root lock that helps to heal the organs of the abdominal cavity. At first, you'll likely be contracting all the pelvic floor muscles along with the anal sphincter. But over time, our task becomes making unconscious movements conscious. The intermediate physical level of Mula Bandha involves isolating contractions of the perineal area and the perineal body, without contracting the sphincter at the same time. To find these muscles and learn how to perform the contraction correctly, first you can do an analysis like this. Gently place your palm on the area, and before you begin, make sure you are relaxed. Cough, you will feel small pushes under your palm, right? Then you can lie on your back, bend your knees, and again place your palm between the anus and the labia and start trying to contract. You should feel how space appears between this area, the perineum, and your palm. A small space appears. If, on the contrary, you feel pressure on your palm, it means you're doing something wrong. Either you're engaging the gluteal muscles, which you shouldn't be engaging. So here you need to figure it out and work on it individually. If you're not succeeding, be sure to write to me about it. We will go over your specific situation together. So you should try to squeeze and pull in the pelvic floor muscles and learn here to separate the perineal area from the anal area. Learn to separate these contractions from each other. Work on this. And then we actually make use of these pelvic floor muscle lifts, which are also known as Mula Bandha, in our daily practices. In the modern world, these are often called Kegel exercises, but this is really a much simpler practice, I would say, and also more modern. I still suggest that you learning to hold the Mula Bandha, a yogic practice that is very cool and very beneficial for the health of the abdominal cavity. And once you have mastered the intermediate level of Mula Bandha on a physical level, you can move on to the full Mula Bandha. You will need to pull up the pelvic diaphragm by contracting primarily the levator muscles. The pelvic diaphragm consists of muscles that run from the pubic bone to the tailbone and supports the upper half of the vagina, uterus, bladder, prostate, and rectum. With practice, you will find that you can pull up the pelvic floor without contracting either the anus or the outer layers of the perineum. We will also be restoring the abdominal muscles, which stretch significantly and weaken during pregnancy. In the formation of the abdominal wall, the rectus muscle actually takes up very little space, while the foundation and support are provided by the internal obliques, external obliques, and also our deep transverse muscle, which we must activate. Initially, the principle of the work is as follows. First, we focus on activating our internal deep transverse muscle. Then we activate the internal obliques and the external obliques. And only at the very end, our notorious rectus abs, the straight abdominal muscles. Training only the oblique muscles will not yield results during recovery. Moreover, without the initial strengthening of the deep transverse muscle, it can trigger both diastasis and the protrusion of that little ridge on the belly, which can consequently lead to umbilical hernias and hernias of the linea alba. Therefore, first and foremost after childbirth, it is necessary to activate and begin by toning the transverse muscle, and then gradually move from the deep layers to the more superficial ones, sequentially engaging all of the muscle groups that make up the abdominal wall. Start first with the transverse muscle, then move on to the internal and external obliques, and finally finish by engaging the rectus abdominis muscle. This algorithm is fully implemented in my postpartum recovery course. And I also provide you with many additional bonus practices so that you can feel wonderful and radiant. After all, for your baby and for those around you, the most important thing is that you are happy and that you are healthy. And from that, everything around will become wonderful. I sincerely wish you good health and well-being. Now, I will briefly summarize everything I have said so far, and I will write it all out for you in a clear text format right now. You can take a screenshot if you like, or print it out and then follow this plan during your workouts.